Hey everyone, Hybrid Toy Reviews here with the brand new Star Wars The Black Series pre-Vizsla. You know, with as many people that have been asking for this figure over the years, I really hope that Hasbro tried their absolute best on it and didn't use some terrible reuse that wrecks the figure, because after all, they listen to the fans and we've been asking for it for a long time, so surely they want to do it right. Right? Right?
So let's start with a look at the packaging. You have your Black Series logo up above the big window showing Pre-Vizsla and his accessories off nicely. You have Star Wars The Clone Wars in yellow across the front. His name Pre-Vizsla, warning 4 plus Hasbro. This side of the box features artwork of Pre-Vizsla. The artwork's looking pretty cool. I like how in the background of the artwork you can see like the opening to the throne room with Maul standing there with the lit saber. That is insane and I love that. This side of the box features your wraparound window, your wraparound yellow stripe, and then your Black Series logo at the bottom. Round back, another Black Series logo, a zoom in on that artwork of Pre-Vizsla, and then a bio about him in varying languages. Pause and read whichever language best applies to you. He's number 17 in the Clone Wars lineup. You have a bunch of legal information below that with a Disney and Hasbro logo. At the bottom, there's more legal information, more symbols, and a barcode. Up top is a hanger tab and a window, which allows a little bit of light into the packaging to show the figure off nicely if you're going to display him in packaging. I don't believe in mint on card. I like to open my toys, so let's go ahead and open them up and take a look at what we're getting here. Alright, here's Pre out of the packaging. Let's start by taking a look at his accessories. So he comes with his two pistols that he carries throughout the show. These are reuse from the Sabine and Rebels, I do believe, and for sure the Death Watch Mando and the the Maul DeLorean from the Clone Wars 2020 Walmart exclusive wave. Features two of these. Has a trigger finger on each hand, and he features a working holster on each hip. So there's weapon storage for those, which is nice. He also comes with the dark saber as he wielded it for most of the Clone Wars. This is reused sculpt-wise from what we've seen before in The Mandalorian. There's nothing new with the hilt. The blade is actually one of the better dark saber blades I believe we've gotten. It's cast in just a stark white plastic with the black flat of the blade painted in. It works very well. Maybe one thing I might wish would have been changed is they maybe tried to add some energy crackling effect to the black sides of the blade, because it had that very heavily in the Clone Wars animation for sure, but not so much here, and that's just what it is. The blade is removable, and we'll leave them taken apart for the time being to look at the next accessory, which is his jetpack. This is done very well. It's an original sculpt to Pre-Vizsla, has nice gunmetal silver paint applied most everywhere. A couple of places still have just the dark gray plastic there, and that's nice. It makes for a little bit of a contrast. It has a bunch of white and red buttons painted on the back, a nice missile up top, which does unpeg to appear to have been fired. The thrusters on the bottom feature holes that will fit the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett blast effects, and Hasbro's really assuming that we army built that guy, aren't they? Because, I still have the one set from the one copy I bought back in, 2019 or whatever, and so, I'm just when are we going to get this accessory put in? Because there's 15 Mandos they've given us that they work on, and we only have the one set, so we're only allowed to put one on the shelf with flame effects. Just start throwing them in. They're repacks, Hasbro. Around back, he has the standard jetpack hookup with the big peg and the little notches up top. Spin the figure around, you see there's the big peg and the two notches. So they line up, and they all peg in, that way the jetpack can't twist. Up top, he has this little clip, and what that is for is to stick the hilt of the Darksaber in, because Pre-Vizsla carried it on his jetpack when he wasn't wielding it. That's pretty good weapon storage. I do like how that has worked out there. I am going to remove that for the moment, stick the blade into it, and set that off to the side. Let's look at the helmet now. This is a unique sculpt. There's no repaint, there's no redecoing or anything. It looks very nice. Has that gunmetal silver applied to the sides of the visor and the top of the helmet, and to the vents in the back. He has two antennas on each side at varying heights of extension. This one in the back here is just closed up. He has a nice kind of dark gray paint applied as a secondary color, and a very nice tan cream. Is that the Death Watch or the House Vizsla symbol? I'm not super up to date with my Mando symbols, but it looks very nice, very well done helmet. Kind of thick plastic, so it's a little bendy, but it's not super rubbery. It fits over the head pretty nice. It's a little bit of a snug application, and then once it's on, it has a tiny bit of play, but it's pretty good for a removable helmet. Let's go ahead and remove it, as mentioned, and take a look at the face sculpt, which I gotta say, I'm not super impressed with. When I think of Pre-Vizsla, I guess I don't think of this. he was very gaunt, you know, in like the later seasons especially. He was a slim build. And this face just looks like a chubby guy, right? Like the jaw is just very wide and just I just don't think I really like it. The paint for like the bald head I'm not really liking. I know that he had like basically just buzzed off, shaved off hair. Like he didn't like bald or anything, but it just seems very heavy-handed with the color. There's not really a lot of texture to imply that it's stubbly. It's relatively smooth, so I'm just not a big super fan of how that turned out. I don't mind the 5 o'clock shadow. That's pretty good. The blue eyes are all right, and I do like the scar on the cheek. You know, it's very much a scar where he didn't put stitches on it or anything to close it up. He just, he just let it heal open. You know, makes it look cooler, right? Let's go ahead and I guess we'll stick his helmet back on. Because, yeah, the helmet, you know, while the face is not a selling point for me, at least he's a helmeted guy. I'll just never take it off. That's all right. What's not all right is this choice of base body. This is the reuse from 2016 Jango Fett body, where they made new legs for the Walmart exclusive Mandalorians in 2020. And I am not liking it. The articulation on this guy has been extremely dated, and I know when every YouTuber that does top 10 Star Wars wish lists, because we know they do that at the end of the year, you know, they'll be like, what we want most in the line. Everyone had Pre-Vizsla on their list, and not a single person had said, I want Pre-Vizsla on the Jango Fett body, because that body is terrible, no one likes it, that sculpt needs to be destroyed at the factory, it needs to never be seen again. It's not up to modern standards. The fact that we're getting this body in the year of 2023 is very upsetting to me. The details on it are not bad. It's a nice looking sculpt, but we have gotten so many Mandalorians this year that are so amazingly detailed and articulated. And we have this fleet commander coming up that no one gives a shit about the character. He was in, like 2 minutes of season 3 of The Mandalorian. And they gave more effort to that figure, more care, than to the leader of Death Watch from the entirety of the Clone Wars animated series. And that's a little disgusting to me. I think it should have been flipped. They should have stuck that guy in the Jango body. Because honestly, I'm not buying the guy because I don't care about him. And like, it's just the effort and the care and the attempt to recreate in a fun, posable way was put on the wrong character there. Because he's coming out in like a month. But anyway, I mean, let's just look through what we're getting here. But effectively, I will say he's been painted very nicely, but being on that Jango body, it's like polishing a turd. He has some very nice chrome gunmetal paint applied to all of his armor plates. A nice blue like crest on the chest is really nice. And everything's got some good shine to it. Something that has plagued this body is the ability to stand. So his shin plates bump into the plate on the top of the foot at that far forward, which is meaning he is leaning back at the ankle at all times. So if you ever want to put him in a pose where he's standing in a semi-stoic kind of straight up way, every time he will tip over. Every single time. You have to hunch him forward at the waist like that, and then he stands up. And I'm sorry, but Pre-Vizsla, you know, he's a pretty noble dude. You know, he stands straight up. He doesn't have shit posture in the show. So this body needs to be disposed of. This is a bad application. Let's run through the articulation. It's nothing great. So he features a ball joint on a hinge for the head, which allows him to look that far up, that far down. Of course, you get your side to side and a little bit of tilt in there. His arms can come up that high at the shoulder and then 360 at the shoulder. No butterfly joint. He has single jointed elbows that only go that far. They don't accomplish 90 degrees. You're going to give me a lightsaber wielding guy without 90 degrees at the elbows so that he has the ability to two-hand his weapon? What are you doing, Hasbro? He has these hoses that go from his gauntlets up under the sleeves up there, so they have a little bit of a cut around the peg there, so like it kind of swivels up there. And then there's a swivel at the gauntlet. He can technically do 360 on the wrists, although they're a little buried in the gauntlet, and both of them hinge in and out, meaning this guy, whose number one thing is taking his darksaber and being a menace to other Mandalorians that are pacifists, Can't even point the damn Darksaber at the people. Like, what the hell? He has a mid-torso ball joint, which allows him to crunch that far forward, that far back. Gives him side-to-side and rotation. His legs can come out about that far. They can go that far forward, not back at all. There's an upper thigh cut buried in there with double-jointed knees that are very clicky, but he can kick his own backside if you really push it. There you go. And then straightening that out. Just very ratchety. I don't like this. And then the feet can point straight down. They can't go forward at all. They can't even go to a true 90 degrees to where he stands upright, as I'd mentioned. So, yeah, and there's a pivot, so you can get him to stand with both feet flat on the ground while hunched forward so he doesn't fall backwards. Just, this is rough. If this is the best that Hasbro can do for Pre-Vizsla, then I'm not sure that we should have gotten it, truthfully. That's my case in point. To do some size comparisons here, just to show you how he fits in. Here is the Clone Wars Darth Maul. As you know, they fight off famously in the latter portions of Season 5. Here he is next to the Mandalorian's Death Watch loyalist from the Season 1 flashbacks. They look pretty good together. I've misplaced my Clone Wars blue one, so I don't have him to bring out right now. And then the guy who scarred him up good, Count Dooku, towering a little bit, although I do believe Christopher Lee was a pretty tall guy. I don't think this is super wrong. So, all said, let's just wrap it up. So, end of the day, what do I have to say about the Pre-Vizsla figure? Nothing that nice, I gotta say. I'm pretty let down by it. When he got pipelined, I was super excited, and then when the photos came out and he was on that Django body, I just knew this was going to be a bitch fest of a review, and I'm sorry it was. Of all of the base bodies they could have picked to put this guy on, this was the absolute worst case scenario. It really kind of feels as if they just don't care, because like I said, they're willing to put so much effort into the fleet commander, the nameless fleet commander from The Mandalorian. But you're going to give us like a main Clone Wars villain. I mean, not a main, but a very recurring, a very well-liked Clone Wars villain. And you're going to not give a shit about what you're doing here? This should not have been done this way. This is the worst way they could have done a Pre-Vizsla. And unfortunately, due to Pre-Vizsla not being the most relevant character at this point anymore, they're not going to redo it. They're not going to give it another attempt in 5 or 10 years. If you want a Pre-Vizsla on your shelf, this polished turd is the only option you're ever going to have. So I'm sorry if you're going to end up stuck with him like I am, because I like the character enough to put him on my shelf, but this was the worst way to do it, and so he's not going to be front and center in the collection. He's a figure that, if done a lot better, could have been a absolute banger this year, but they didn't care to. This, honestly, is probably going to make the lower end of my worst 5 of the year. So, anyway, that's a video to be made later on. Sorry to have made a 12-minute bitch fest about this guy, like I said. And I'm going to go work on some other videos on figures I'm hopefully happier about. So I'll see you there. Until next time, may the Force be with each and every one of you, and goodbye.